Anna, and this is Ignacio. We, along with our daughter Elena and our pup Bay, are the new salt selling crew. We are DIYers with a growing appetite for big adventure. Our goal is to DIY and trade our way up to a blue water-worthy boat and set sail on an adventure by sea. We are new to selling and plan to develop our selling skills along the way. Subscribe to stay up to date with our progress and adventures.
On this episode of New Salts, I begin repairing the sailboat that I got in trade for this trailer. I had acquired this trailer in a previous trade and had right at $200 tied up in it. I had been searching for a sailboat for a few weeks and wanted to get into one with as little investment as possible. I found this 1974 Ventrure 21 on Craigslist and was able to strike a deal with the seller. The boat was supposedly in sail-ready condition, but upon digging into the boat, I found that it could really use some work. I purchased it as a project and was ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work in order to get it sailing safely. The boat had not been moved in over a year, so I opted to load it onto my flatbed trailer to transport it the 4-hour drive home from San Antonio, Texas to Houston. My first task upon getting the boat home was to unload it from the trailer, which I was able to do safely with 2 winches, one pulling and one holding. Next, I rigged the boat up in order to inspect all the rigging to determine what I would need to repair or replace prior to our first sail. After de-rigging the boat, I began to clear out the interior. This is when I discovered that the bulkheads and stringers needed to be replaced, which is what we'll cover in this first episode of New Salts.
Alright, this is the current state of my 1974 Ventrure 21 project. Got it in a trade for a little utility trailer. Needs some work, but got 4 sails for it, a good mast. And overall, the hull is in good condition. There's a couple rotted cross supports in the floor that I'm going to cut out today and hopefully cut some new ones out and start the fiberglass process. You see there's one here, and this one here. So we've got 4 to replace, and then about a foot of each one of these stringers. So the leading foot appears to be rotten. I'm going to cut back and see how much of it I need to cut out. Because I'm impatient, go after it with a hacksaw for now while that battery charges. Alright, so just to go over why these are rotting. They are fully encapsulated in fiberglass, or at least were originally. But one of the many previous owners of the boat had decided to cut these flush and not cover them back up with glass. You can see they originally came to at least here, or maybe all the way up to here. So the problem with that is that now you leave all this glass exposed, and you also are losing about half the height of the thing for stability to the keel. I don't see any damage to the keel housing, with the exception of where somebody had glassed over the locking bolt. But my intent is to rebuild these to full height. So what that means is the front floor will raise back up to factory height, and you can see where somebody, or where the original floor was, and it appears to be this line. So it does go all the way up to here. So I intend to rebuild that so that this area is only storage. I mean, this boat isn't big enough for anybody to sleep in really anyway, so there's no reason to lower the floor, in my opinion. We will continue on. I'm going to take this out and go cut out a new one. See how that goes. So that fit fairly smooth. We're gonna sand the edges, prime it. While that dries, I'm gonna clean up the inside, and then we will put some Bondo fillets on it and glass it tomorrow. I've got it cleaned up where I like it, and we will see what the fitment is like. If it's good, then we'll go ahead and bondo it in. So I've got the bondo down and got it basically just glued in with the bondo. Now I'm going to go through, if this is kind of cured, go in and put a fillet in all the way around so my glass has a smooth transition. Alright, it's the next morning. We got both the port and starboard keel bulkheads bondoed in, so just in order to glue them kind of in place and fair in the transition between the hull and the bulkhead, so we don't have a sharp 90 right here. So that's done. Need to do some sanding on those before we get them glassed in. But first, I need to get this stringer and this mid-hole bulkhead repaired. I got it cut out, and then I started cutting back on the stringer and found that it is rotted pretty far back. So far I've cut a little over a foot back and still finding rot, so I'm just going to start drilling holes and seeing how far back I have to go in order to get this thing repaired. About 2.5 feet from where the stringer connects to the midship bulkhead, I found a dry spot, so I'm gonna go ahead and notch this out all the way back here and see if we can't splice the stringer there and make sure it's fully dried out in that area.
Alright, so we kind of changed paces here a little bit and began putting the first layer of fiberglass on the main bulkheads. That way they had adequate time to dry while I was messing with the midship bulkhead.
Bulkheads have been bonded in. They have a 6-inch strip of chop strand all the way around them. We'll let that set up overnight, and then we will come back, remove our jacks, which are keeping the bulkheads from flexing away from the hull just because there is no support at the moment. So that's just keeping them there so that the bondo that we had used as adhesive doesn't crack just with me walking around the boat. So yeah, we'll give this overnight to cure, and then tomorrow we'll come in and wrap the whole thing in fiberglass, extending a few inches past the strip that I just laid down. We'll do that with a weave, and then we'll go back over it one more time with chop strand, and that should be it. In this situation, the wood has the majority of the load bearing. The fiberglass is more of a waterproofing and a bonding from the wood to the hull and to the keel. Yeah, we'll let this sit up, and then we'll see what it looks like in the morning. Alright, just like that, we're ready to start glassing all this in. So I'm gonna go get me a tape measure, and I'm gonna measure all this stuff up, figure out what size sheets of glass I need for everything, and then hopefully do a couple hours of fiberglassing today. So I'm about to start epoxying the bulkheads around the keel housing. I just wanted to go over quickly the ventilation I have set up here. I'm turning you around. Okay, so I have the companionway open on the boat. I have a fan blowing in, blowing through the boat, and then on the hatch I have a fan blowing out. It not only cools down the inside of the boat considerably, but it also evacuates a lot of the fumes. And on top of that, I am wearing a respirator rated for I can't remember what they're called now, organic compounds. So the vapors, I can't smell anything when I'm wearing the vapor or the face mask, even though, or the respirator, even though fumes are in the air. And I've used it with polyester resin, which has a lot of fumes coming off of it, and I can't smell a thing with the mask on, so that's good. Anyway, I'm about to start mixing up this 3-to-1 US Composites epoxy. I'm just going to do like half of a measuring cup at a time and just continue to mix it. I have it sitting up here on top of a piece of carpet on the companionway, so I can just mix it as I need it if I run out, so I don't have to hop down and come back down here to mix it. So I'll just keep mixing it as I need it, let it sit for a minute or two, and then I'll start applying it. So anyway, I'm to apply it, I am using just 2-inch chip brushes. I bought these in bulk. They're real cheap, like 60 cents a piece. So we'll just use these to apply it, and then I also have a fin roller to knock out any air bubbles if any pop up. Anyway, we'll get started on laying these up. Hopefully, maybe take about an hour or so to get both layers and that 1-inch strip on the transitions laid in. So I'll do the woven roving first on both of them, and then by the time I get done on the second one, the first one will probably be set up enough to where I can go ahead and lay the chop strand down, get that set in, and then yeah, just let it sit overnight. Once I get those two done, then I'm going to go ahead and get that the rear bulkhead and that rear stringer set in, and then maybe this evening or tomorrow I'll get the other bulkhead or the other stringer completed. We'll just see how the stuff looks, how well it's set up by this evening. Anyway, we'll get started here. So I already have my respirator on, so you may have a little trouble hearing me, but this is a 3-to-1 US Composites epoxy system. It's the medium cure time, so we've got about 20 to 25 minutes to mix about a third of this thing at a time. I don't really want to mix too much. It's easy enough to mix some more if I need more. So 3 pumps of the resin to 1 pump of the hardener. Just keep going back and forth till I get where I want. I'll mix it up, let it sit for about a minute, and then we'll start laying it down. So I'll mix this up and we'll let it sit for another 30-40 seconds, and then we'll start laying it down. So what we like to do is I want to lay a full layer of epoxy down before I put any matting down, and that's just to make sure that the back side of this stuff is fully wet out. So since I'm doing this strip first, I'm going to come through and wet out just the corners, lay that in, and then I'll lay out the rest of the surface and put on my woven roving. So I was fiberglassing this in, and I realized that I was dripping a little bit of resin on the head of this bolt. I'm just grab this light and see if I can give y'all some light so you can see. So the head of that bolt down there, I was dripping a little bit of epoxy resin on it. Problem with that is, if I lock that thing up, I'm not going to be able to get the keel out. So kind of in a panic, I took the nut off. It'll be fine just hanging there, but that way I can pull this bolt out. I need to check all the waterproofing and everything there anyway. Probably add some new waterproofing, and anyway, I just wanted to get that out before it locks up, and then I struggle with it trying to break it free, or maybe would have even had to cut the bolt out from underneath the boat, potentially damaging the keel housing. So anyway, we got both these, the first layer of complete fiberglass on both these bulkheads, the woven roving, and next we'll do those two sections of chop strand here in a few minutes. Let this set up. It's already pretty dry. It's just barely tacky, so just give this about 20 more minutes. I'd like to put it down while it's still a little tacky to ensure a good chemical bond, but not so tacky that I'd shift the mat below. Anyway, we'll get back on time lapse when I'm ready to put the mat down. So we've got these two glassed in, all 3 layers, I guess 4 if you count the little strip. I'm gonna get this piece in, and then glass this stringer and this last bulkhead, and then the hull will be ready. It just needs 24 hours to cure and be ready to roll, so, or float rather. All right, so get this going and throw y'all up on the time lapse. Alright, so all the fiberglass work inside is done, aside from the mast support base, which we'll do later today. So now that all this is done, I'm going to fabricate a little box to support the front end of the keel. I'm going to drop the keel, check everything there. I've decided I don't think I'm going to do anything with the keel until I've sailed the boat at least once or twice. In freshwater, obviously, the keel's all metal, and there is some exposed cast iron there, so I don't want to expose it to any salt water, but we'll do some freshwater sailing and make sure everything is good, and then I will completely remove the keel from the boat, rework it, fair it, get it all nice and smooth, and then either gel coat or paint it. I need to do some more research and figure out how I want to go about that. But anyway, here's all the glass work. The epoxy worked nicely. I just had to come in and sand some of these little hairs. Just chop strand matting going around an edge tends to do that, so we'll just hand sand all this to knock these loose hairs off, and that'll be it. So anyway, the inside turned out pretty good, and all I need to make is like I said, that mast support, and then I need to do something maybe over here to get the battery box back in. I don't know if I want to, I mean, there's already some holes in the stringer from where somebody used some fasteners, so I may follow suit there as a temporary solution, and then patch all those up whenever I actually put the floors in for the berths. So this this sailboat originally had 4 berths. There's 2 side berths, and then the V berth. The V berth is supposed to sleep 2 people. It's fairly small, as you can see, though. But Anyway, I think I'm gonna return it to its original layout. So yeah, we'll get down there and fabricate something to hold the keel on a jack and see where we get.
Join us next week when we lift the boat off the trailer to lower and inspect the keel. Then we'll fabricate and install a custom all-aluminum mast support. If you enjoy our videos, please like, subscribe, and share them with your friends.